Hi, this is Sarah Meixel with the Pig Site, and today we're here with Dr. Paul Sundberg. He is the Executive Director of the Swine Health Information Center in the United States. Thanks for being with us today, Paul.
Thanks for the opportunity, Sarah.
Great, and we're here in Chicago at the North American PRRS Conference, and you spoke to the group today and talked a lot about some of these global emerging diseases. Tell us a little bit about your message.
So the Swine Health Information Center was stood up in 2015 specifically to look for emerging diseases that could affect the U.S. pork industry. And this session today was about those activities, about chicks monitoring, looking over the hill, both internationally and domestically, about the data analysis we do, and then about some targeted research projects. So I wanted to make sure that people were aware of what was going on. This session was an emerging disease and field detection, which is all about what CHIC does, and we were able to show people some programs that CHIC has put into place to help with that.
Very good. So what are some of those diseases that are of concern right now?
Well, for the U.S., of course, we've got PRRS, we've got PED, we've got mycoplasma. The different variants of PRRS is one of the focuses for this conference itself. What the center tries to do is anytime we're doing research or any analysis and looking into PRRS, PED, mycoplasma, anything that is endemic and domestic, we always set it up with how do we translate what we find to help us either be prepared or respond to the next emerging disease. What really this whole thing is about is how can we look at PRRS, for example, and PED now to set us up for the next PED that we get so we don't have to chase it like we had to chase PED in 2013.
Very good. And one of the things that was mentioned even later is you discussed a little bit about JEV, if you can talk a little bit about that. Because that might be a disease people aren't as familiar with, but it is a threat here in the U.S.
Yeah, you know, the JEV could be an example of our next PED. I hope we never get it, but we need to do the best we can do to prevent it. And if we can't prevent it, then we've got to be prepared for it. Japanese encephalitis virus is a viral disease that's transmitted by mosquitoes. It lives in waterfowl. And pigs are called an amplifying host. So if a pig gets bitten by a mosquito with this virus in its saliva, the pig manufactures that virus and manufactures it at pretty high levels. So another mosquito comes along and bites that pig, picks it up and moves it on to somebody else. So it's a production disease. There's an outbreak in Australia that we identified in January of 2022. And we've been studying it since it happened there. It's a production disease. It's caused an estimated 6 to 10% loss of production in Australia. It's also what's called a zoonotic disease, so people can get it. And the issue with people is that if they get it, it's very low incidence of that happening. 1% of people that get bitten will end up having clinical disease, but up to 20% of them may be fatal. 20% of those cases may be fatal. So it's both an animal disease and a human disease, and it's something that we have to take very seriously, and that's part of our activity in trying to engage USDA, CDC, producers, researchers, everybody in our preparation for preventing and our preparation for responding should we get it.
Very good. And African swine fever is always on everybody's mind. And we just heard at this event that there was a new outbreak in the Czech Republic, it sounds like.
Yeah, they found it in wild boar again in the Czech Republic. I don't know that that's really a whole lot of surprise because that virus is going to circulate in those Eastern Europe countries. They'll find it, they'll get rid of it, they'll find it again, that type of thing. African swine fever continues to move around the globe. Certainly in Eastern Europe and their population of wild pigs there, it's a big challenge. But it's also in Asia and Southeast Asia and continues to move there. The Dominican Republic and Haiti, the island of Hispaniola. One of the success stories is we heard of a disease in Ecuador that sounded a lot like ASF, but on the Ecuadorian diagnostic lab and confirmed by USDA on Plum Island, it was negative for both classical and African swine fever. So far we don't have any more spread in the Western Hemisphere.
Very good. Now let's switch gears just a little bit and talk about biosecurity in the field.
Oh, sure. The analysis of the data through some of our programs of monitoring for emerging diseases in the U.S., and the analysis of all of that data put together, and there are multiple sources of it, led to the pretty stark realization that we really have some challenges on finishing floor biosecurity. The finishing floors are serving as a nidus of infection back to breeding herds, and that's certainly an issue for PRRS, which is a topic of this conference. And so what we've done is with the Foundation for Food and Agriculture, with National Pork Board and Swine Health Information Center, we put together a big fund of money to focus on wean to harvest biosecurity. The issue there is what we're trying to look for is we're trying to not just look for good ideas, but look for good ideas that producers can actually do that make a difference, that are implementable and they're cost effective. So we're looking at finishing floors, trying to keep it out, trying to keep diseases out of those floors. If they've got something, we're going to keep it in to those floors. And also with transport biosecurity and the opportunity to move things around in trucks. That's our focus. That's what we're working on. We've got a call for proposals out there. Swinehealth.org is the website to see the call for proposals. The deadline for that is December 16th.
Very good. Well, thank you, Paul, for all the information today.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Sarah. Thanks for having me.
This is Sarah Mikesell with the Pig Site.